let me take a few minutes to go a little bit deeper and share with you all of what we are doing at HeartWorks to build hearts and to cure congenital heart disease. It really is all about families. It's about the kids that we've heard about. It's about the kids we've seen about. The 1 in 100 families that have been born with congenital heart disease motivate us every single day. But these pictures are only truly know what's behind them with the families. Let me tell you a little bit more of those of you that are on the screen that don't know all the details. These kids get a diagnosis before they're born. These kids have the first surgeries before they can remember. These families and these moms have the trauma of trying to figure out how they're just going to survive day to day. And it's these pictures of children that are thriving with congenital heart disease that motivates us every single day to do what we do. Because not everybody is on these pictures today. And there are plenty of kids, way too many, that are forever young. And I know I remember my handful of those forever young kids that aren't here. That's what we're trying to change. These kids go through an awful lot. These families go through an awful lot. And we're here tonight to change that. So let me tell you a little bit about congenital heart disease for those of you that are new to this. I know most of you got this cold with what all this is. But these kids are born with literally missing parts of their heart. We have 4 chambers in our heart. These kids only have 2. And the 2 chambers that they have are the weakest chambers of their heart. They have holes in their heart that need surgical repair. They need to be put back together. And here's the worst part. We call that palliative surgery. We call that not curative surgery. And we're going to talk about that tonight. Our mission is her dream, to cure congenital heart defects. Congenital heart defects are way too big of a problem, far too little funding, and we have the technology, we have the team, and we have the ability to cure this disease, and it's because of all of you that are with us tonight that makes us confident in this vision. So let me tell you a little bit of what we mean by a pathway to a cure, because a cure sounds like an intimidating term, but really what we're talking about is 3 things. We're talking about increasing blood flow to the lungs, so that these kids can exercise and run and play and do all the things that normal kids can do, increasing the blood to the lungs. The second is rebuilding their weak heart, literally rebuilding their heart with the stem cells that we're going to show you tonight to make that heart stronger. And then the third one, I'm going to blow your mind a little bit tonight, and I'm going to show you something that we've never shown in an audience like this, of how we have the pathway to literally rebuild hearts and increase the number of hearts that are available for life-saving surgeries. This is our pathway to a cure. And so you might say, why don't we have it? If it's that easy, why don't we have a cure for congenital heart disease? What's lacking? Is it our physicians, our surgeons, our nurses? What's the problem? Is it the technology? Why don't we have a cure? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's a systemic problem. We have a sick care system that's prided itself on taking care of kids when they're sick. And we have to change that. But let me tell you how we got here. So my stepfather started out as one of these docs in the 60s and 70s that was truly a pioneer. We came from a world where these physicians were troubleshooting and problem solving every single day. And they came up with some remarkable breakthroughs in the 70s and 80s. And anybody that has had a Norwood operation came from this era with Bill Norwood. But there was limitations to this. There's limitations that we needed physicians to do other things than innovate. And if you look at the amount of time physicians spend, which is critical, either taking care of patients or innovating for the future, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that we spend less and less time innovating today than we ever have. And yet we have the biggest need for innovation to move forward than we've ever had before. This is a problem that we need to change. We've evolved then into a service delivery model. And we had the Norwood operation. We had all these procedures that saved the lives of kids. And then we standardized it. We made it available to the masses. And this is great work. And thankfully, this technology and these surgeries are available globally today. But this service delivery model wasn't all roses. It actually decreased the amount of time that we focused on the unmet needs of our patients. And to move this forward, we need industry partners to develop new clinical trials and new products. Well, here's the reality. As we go through that research and development on the left, all the way to commercialization on the right, the cost of this has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger over the last few decades. In fact, industry partners can't afford to focus on rare and neglected congenital heart patients. There's simply just not enough of them to make this a good business model. Academics, on the other hand, can do the early studies and can do the studies for rare conditions. But the problem is we can't ever get that to a product that goes into a commercial product. They have to ultimately find an industry partner to hand that off. Hence, the cost structure becomes prohibitive. This is a problem that we need to fix. Because these kids, although they look amazing, they are amazing, they've all had palliative surgery. They have heart disease. They have heart failure. They have lymphatic failure. They have liver congestion and liver problems. You wouldn't know it looking at them, but these palliative surgeries have not cured these kids, and we cannot forget that. This pathway to a cure requires innovation, clinical trials, and teams that work collaboratively to solve their problems. Said another way, these kids show up in the hospital and they scare the clinicians to death because we don't know what to do for them. We're trying to figure it out every single day they come to the hospital. In fact, we also ignore that. We hope that that never happens. But I can guarantee you every family here and every family online worries about that day when these kids have a problem that can't be solved. We at HeartWorks don't ignore those problems. We lean into those problems. Those are the biggest opportunities to make the biggest impact. And that's what the cure model is about, putting the patient's problems first. When we focus on their biggest problems, we can tackle some unbelievable challenges. There's 4 components to how we do this at HeartWorks. And I think this is important for you all to realize what makes HeartWorks different. It starts first and foremost by prioritizing the unmet needs of congenital heart patients. They're our priority, they're our focus. The second thing is we need products to be solutions. It's not surgeries, it's not medicine, it's not palliative care. It's new products that have new solutions and new curative strategies. We also are different because we're a collaboration of ideas. We bring the best ideas from across the globe to the lab to develop them and develop clinical trials. It's a collaboration of ideas. We don't care where the idea comes from, as long as we know it's the best idea for our kids. And then ultimately, we have to invest for impact. We're not investing for profits only. We're investing for life-changing impact, and that impact is what we're all about tonight. These are the behaviors that change when we work collaboratively to forward these 4 components together. But there's one massive change here that I want to share with you tonight. Although we're focused on the kids come first, what most people don't realize is the big aha moment here is that when we focus on these kids, we focus on their dreams and we focus on their outcomes, we actually create a pathway for everybody with heart failure. And we create technology that can save lives of millions of people. In fact, did you know that every open heart surgery done was done for the first time with a kid with a VSD for a hole in their heart? The cardiac catheterizations that some of these kids have had millions of times, and some of you with having stents placed, that cardiac catheterization was because we pioneered that for kids with congenital heart disease. Echocardiogram was invented for kids with congenital heart disease. And the latest technology, minimally invasive valve replacement was invented for kids with congenital heart disease. So imagine if we built an investable team that focused on these kids, of the technology that would be available for the millions of people across the globe. And that's what this team believes in. That's what this team does, and that's what this team wakes up every single day focusing on the kids so that we can change the trajectory of healthcare. We like to call ourselves a team of teams, and what we mean by that is we're driven by the urgency of CHD. We're motivated by transformative outcomes. We're undeterred by the obstacles. We know there's obstacles in front of us. We're committed to a self-reliant ecosystem. We have to do this ourselves with the right partners. We can't expect somebody else to come in and bail us out. And ultimately, we're aligned by all of us in this room and across the Zoom call here by a shared responsibility to tackle this. So let me walk you through how we do this a little bit. And TK did a great job of giving you a lab tour and meeting many of these people on this slide here. How we do this is we bring the best ideas out of the lab, and we started with the product CardiaCord. And we heard tonight of some families that were involved in that from the beginning. We collected their cord blood, we processed it in the lab, and we injected it into the heart muscle, as you can see here. This surgical transplantation of these fertilizer packets into these child's heart at 3 months of age is where we started. We did the impossible. We proved that we could do this safely. We proved that we could manufacture a product and we could move the field forward with true clinical trials testing real therapies. That led to 160 plus families being involved in this research, and we are grateful for your pioneering efforts that built the confidence to do what we're going to do next. You've seen this before. Our second product is YourHeart. It's YourHeart because it's genetically identical to your body. And this beating heart muscle cell is now the building blocks of what we say when we say we build hearts. We're literally building these hearts, and now look at what we can do with this. We can transplant these cells, as shown in green in this animal model, injecting these cells into a heart muscle and showing that we can rebuild and remuscularize the heart to make it bigger and stronger. Now imagine a kid with a 5 horsepower engine that needs a 50 horsepower engine. This is potentially a pathway to a cure. But it doesn't stop there. We can also cast those beating, contracting cells into conduits, as you can see here. If you look carefully, you can see a white line that's flashing. And that flashing line is because this is a contracting tube of muscle. Now imagine what we can do with that. We can transplant that into the pulmonary circulation or other parts of the body. In fact, this weekend I had a new idea. What if we put this in the lymphatic system and actually help move the lymphatics out of the body and back to where it belongs? This type of technology can be a game changer for these families with no hope today. But then ultimately imagine this. The same cells that we can plant into a heart, we can take hearts that are not transplantable, and you're looking at a heart here that would be typically discarded. But we can now keep it alive in a box, and we now can start rebuilding this heart with our stem cells and regenerative products to imagine rescuing this heart so it doesn't get discarded, but could actually be used in a transplant scenario for people that don't yet have that as an option. All three of these products come out of the manufacturing lab of what we do with these starting materials. But we're not stopping there. This year we had one of the biggest breakthroughs we've had in a long time, and we call this the Wannick circulation. We have now proven, not only in our animal models, but we've proven in clinical settings that we now know we can put a pump in the part of a body, the pulmonary arteries, without a valve in a very minimally invasive way, and we can literally re-engineer the heart muscle. But I don't want you to take it for my word. I want you to hear it directly from Dr. Jason Anderson, who he himself invented this technology. Jason?
The Wannick circulation is a specialty adaptation to a Fontan circulation. And so a Fontan physiology often means that a patient only has a partial development of the cardiac structures, and we're asking the heart to pump, but before the blood comes back, it goes through the body and the lungs. Quite different than a normal standard physiology. In that setup, there's no pump to push the blood through the lungs, which we normally would have or see. Our goal was to develop a pump to mimic in a more natural kind of physiologic design that what we would expect in our general life. And our goal then was to achieve that, which we did, and have now turned the Wannick circulation. I'm Jason Anderson. I'm a congenital interventional cardiologist. I take care of patients from fetal life, infancy, childhood, to adulthood, throughout all phases and walks of life. If you have congenital heart disease and you were born with something, you come see me no matter where you are in life for fixing. Our research led to a life-saving maneuver for a patient with Fontan physiology. And there's really no greater satisfaction in an individual's career. And as a parent, there's no greater gift that I could provide or that could be provided to me in being able to take care of someone else's child and return that child to that family. It hasn't been seen before or hasn't been observed before. People may be skeptical. And we saw firsthand that skepticism, but we all came together and watched the effects of what we had studied and what our research had led us to believe. And firsthand, we watched it work in action. And it is one of the largest success stories we have to date. The future of what we've been developing will have a greater impact on the community as a whole. The devices and the expertise that have went into modifying Fontan physiology, I believe, is the next stage in Fontan palliation, the Wannick circulation. Traditionally, we say it's a three surgery approach. It's going to be a 4-step approach. Hopefully, we'll minimize those surgeries. So it'll be steps rather than surgical procedures. And our aim is to do more and more via transcatheter routes to limit the amount of times we have to do open heart surgery for our patients. We also have very clear expectations in congenital heart disease. Our goal is not survival. Survival was the goal 30 years ago. Today, the goal is if you have congenital heart disease, you live a life unaltered from everybody around you. In fact, my expectation is that you beat the people around you. Because when you cross the finish line of a marathon and you have Fontan physiology and you look at the person next to you and you say, I did it, it's far more impactful and far more motivating. And it's motivating to all the children that will come in the future with that same physiology. And it's quite inspiring when somebody's walking down the street and you have no idea they have congenital heart disease, except for when they champion that and let you know, so you can be a part of their life and a part of what's really made it special for our patients. And watching a child who has a life saved, which may have not been the case even months or years ago, is extremely motivating. It gives me hope. People like you give me hope. People who are supporting patients with congenital heart disease, coming together as a community to raise awareness and to improve the care of all the kids that will come in the future and see the same insurmountable hurdles we see today, which won't be insurmountable as we go forward.
Jason, I am so grateful for you. He has been our pioneer this year and has led to some amazing breakthroughs It's because of the HeartWorks platform that brings people like this together to behave differently, to have different outcomes. As you can see here on our slide, we have a board of directors and a whole leadership team. All of the hearts demonstrate where families have, or members of our team that have a direct link to congenital heart disease. But what's most important to me on this slide is at the top. It's that we work for every single kid with congenital heart disease. That's our boss. And when we say we work for you, we truly mean it. It's truly an honor and a privilege to do the things that we do for families like this. Let me tell you how we do this a little bit more. HeartWorks is a bridge to make all of this vision a reality. It starts with the grants and the donations and the high-risk research that sometimes moves way too slow for us to be proud of where we're going. And sometimes the investments on the other end of the spectrum don't come for the congenital heart world because the market is too small. HeartWorks is unique. HeartWorks is different. HeartWorks is the catalyst to bridge these two worlds together, to take the ideas and make them a reality. So let me tell you this way. Typically, industry takes 17 years and $3 billion to develop a product. 17 years and $3 billion. Because congenital heart disease is such a rare disease, it never gets out of the lab and into the clinical practice. That's a problem. With the platform that we shared with you tonight, HeartWorks can do this faster and better and be focused on kids, which then that leads to the innovations for everybody else with heart disease. This isn't an idea. This is a movement. This is the action that has come to place. We have the world's first FDA approval for the bioengineered heart muscle cells to be transplanted back into a patient's body. And all of these numbers, from donors to participants that work collaboratively, we thank you because you are the ones that are giving us the confidence to even go faster as we go forward. So the money comes in as a donation, and all the donations you've heard tonight, we carefully invest those dollars to develop clinical data, the outcomes that we strive for with our clinical patients. That clinical data gets licensed to for-profit companies now because it's de-risked, because it's a good investment. And we can align ourselves with these companies that then brings it to a product launch and generates revenue. That is the self-sustaining, self-reliant ecosystem that funnels dollars back so we can do it again and again and again. And this commitment to you, the families with congenital heart disease, is the confidence that we have to bring this forward. So it's dollars, it's investments, it's donations, it's all of the work that you heard, and it's new products. This is the hallmark of what we do. Products are the solution to the cure. So here's the playbook. I want everybody to realize that this isn't about one patient, one age, or one stage. We all start out on this journey with normal hearts at some point. And at some point, our hearts with these congenital patients end up not doing so well. And we are developing a playbook that we have a product for every stage of the game. In fact, if we had applied these products early enough, maybe we can keep everybody healthy enough that they never develop heart failure. But if they do, we also are developing a product, as we said, the second heart, that increases the ability to do transplants in a fundamentally different way. All of these technologies are stacked together to improve the longevity of not only kids, but you can see where this is going. This brings technology to everybody with heart disease. But this ain't cheap, and this ain't fast. And so these are the numbers that we've estimated of how much it's going to take to get these products across the finish line. We've made a big dent in what we've done. We've done more than anybody thought is possible with the dollars that we've had available to us, but we've got a big fight in front of us to keep this moving. We work differently, and we work wonders when we do work together. There's no bigger way for all of you families out there to help us move this forward more aggressively than participating in the co-op. The co-op, as Kelly told you about tonight, is a game changer. The reason we ignore and have been ignored in the congenital heart community is because we're fragmented and we don't have the masses together. The co-op is going to change that. When we bring all families with congenital heart disease, all families with congenital heart disease together, we will have the movement, the bandwidth, and the power to move clinical trials forward fundamentally different than what we are today. This is the way every family can help us move forward faster today, and I'm grateful for the first 150 people that have helped us pioneer this in the last year. Thank you. But you haven't stopped there. You, the families, you, the ones affected by congenital heart disease, you, the ones that have no time for anything other than worrying about your family, have raised over $2 million for HeartWorks since we've started. That is unbelievably motivating to me, and when I share this with donors such as these, it's unbelievably motivating to these donors because it's the $1,000 that Isaac did at his lemonade stand that gets amplified by a $100,000 check written on the spot. And I'm so grateful for Todd and Karen and all of these leaders on this board that are allowing us to go faster and further than even we thought possible a year ago. But it doesn't stop there. I want all of you, I'm watching you out in the hall here, to take your phone out and take a photo of this. All of you, take a photo of this picture. Nobody's doing it out here. Take a photo of this picture, all of you, because this is the QR code that changes lives. This is the QR code that changes the impact of what we can do. I've given you my cell phone. I've given you my email. Reach out to me. Maybe you don't want to use the QR code, but contact me. Let's dream about what we can do together. I know there's people on this call that are eager to figure out how they can help us move forward, and this is the start. We need to raise millions of dollars to be able to move this forward as fast as this team is capable of. We are an investable team. And I was talking to Isaac earlier today, and he said, you got to make sure that those people know that donations matter. So do it for the kids. My boss told me to make sure that you guys knew that we can do more.